This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody. Today, I have some of my Black Belt friends with me here to celebrate our new book coming out March 16th called Black Belt Women, Lessons on Perseverance. You guys, my journey in the martial arts began about 14 years ago when my son and I walked into Gentle East Taekwondo here in Maryland to take a class. And I've written about that journey before, like in a whole book, but this year, I wanted to bring my female warrior friends together to write about the lessons and the lifestyle of martial arts from a woman's perspective. I know that you guys are going to enjoy getting to know these powerful authors today. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Thank you, Laura.
So I have Master Schoenbrunn, and she is a 6th degree Black Belt in Taekwondo, coach and international referee. She earned her first dan in 1997 and started refereeing in 2003. She's an instructor and coach at South Orlando Martial Arts, and she is the owner of Schoenbrunn Consulting LLC, helping associations and nonprofits thrive. I also have Bonnie Durkin. She's an energy alignment coach who helps clients align with their desires and live the lives of their dreams. She's an author, a Black Belt, an EFT practitioner, tapping into wealth coach, and fitness professional. She has 20 years experience helping clients increase their emotional, physical, and financial well-being. And Taryn Phoenix is a 1st degree Black Belt in Taekwondo. She works as the children's pastor in the Quad Cities, Iowa. She is currently pursuing her doctorate. She's a stroke survivor of almost 5 years. And you guys, I'm going to have all of these amazing women hooked up down in the show notes with their websites and social links so that you can find them later. Lois, I'm starting with you. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about your story and this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Sure, thank you. And Laura, thanks for connecting all of us and making this book happen. It's been fabulous. And it's been amazing reading everyone's stories. In 1991, my son was 4, and I heard this constant Ninja Turtle, karate, mommy. And like so many other moms said, okay, I have to find the right karate school for him. Asked a bunch of friends, and one friend said to me, you have the best martial arts school on the East Coast 5 minutes from your house. And that was Gentle East Taekwondo. I literally had walked past the front door of Gentle East hundreds of times as I went to the grocery store next door. Unassuming, had never noticed the sign. We watched a class. He was instantly hooked. The following week, I joined the kids class, and I was Miss Lois in the little kids class for 6 months and then I started taking the adult class as well. And turns out we trained together for about 12 years. He stopped at 2nd degree Black Belt. I think it was an amazing, phenomenal experience for him. And obviously I continued. All of the pieces, the perseverance, the awareness, all of the things that people brought out in their stories have resonated with me. In life, people think I'm tough and say, of course you did martial arts because you're so tough. And actually, it's the other way around. I am tough because of martial arts. I'm also soft and gentle and giving because of martial arts, but that's a different story. What I wanted to convey in this chapter is really about mental toughness, that step beyond perseverance, those steps beyond, that get closer to grit And for me, what got me there was not the day in and day out training, which I absolutely loved. It was the testing. It was the 8 to 14 hour black belt tests that really forced me to prove to myself what I'm capable of, that I can dig deep and keep going when I had to. And I think that's an important lesson. I know it was an important lesson for me, and I think it's an important lesson for other people.
I love that you're talking about the test. We haven't talked about that yet in the other interviews. And I think maybe because it could scare people if we really start to get talking about it. I don't know. But, you just said 8 to 14 hours. You just okay, so talk to me more about that. I think this is one of the biggest gifts I've received, is knowing what I was made of. And it had to do with those moments in the test. Tell me more about that.
So, and let me say, there are certainly other ways to find this in yourself, this grit, this mental toughness. It doesn't have to be a black belt test or a series of black belt tests. There are many, many other ways to find this in life. But for us, and I say us, for those of us who trained in that way, they were singular events that had us show what we learned in class and what we trained for and what we've learned, but more than that, have to dig deep and continue to push. There were times in those tests where I had to make a decision when we'd started at 2:00 in the afternoon and it was midnight. When I had to make a decision, I can't keep going with my mind and my body. One's got to give. And I had to actively decide to shut one down. And so it was my mind that I would shut down. But I could do it. And it wasn't a physical pain. And it wasn't even a mental pain. It was I can do this. And there was a part of I remember the joy at the end of getting through it and celebrating with my colleagues, with my friends, with my martial arts family.
And it is a second family, isn't it? You stood in the, what do we call that at the end? The gauntlet of high fives. Yes. You stood there for me that night, for me and Jonathan, my son. And even if you don't really physically feel like smiling, you can't help it at that point. It's just such a great feeling. Bonnie, I'm going to move to you next. Talk to us a little bit about your story and this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Sure. So my story is very similar in a lot of ways to Lois's. I started martial arts also because of my son. He was 6 at the time, and it was 1996, and he was obsessed with Ninja Turtles. And it was the same sort of thing. He was begging me like every day, Mom, want to do karate. He had these little plastic nunchucks. He had a ninja costume. He was constantly obsessed with karate. And I was really trying to push him off because I really didn't understand the martial arts at that point. I didn't know anything about them. And I really kind of thought it was like this real like macho fighting kind of thing. And I didn't want to encourage that. But one day we were driving down the main street of the small town that we lived in, and there was this huge sign with balloons tied on it that said Karate Today. And Kevin had just learned how to read, and he saw it, and he said, Mom, stop, karate, we have to go. And so we pulled into, it was a brand new studio that had just opened in our little town, and they were having a big open house, and there were tons of people, and there were a bunch of his friends there with the family. And so they did this fabulous demonstration with the master and the black belt from the Federation, and he had to sign up. There was no way out once he saw it. So he got signed up, and then I was there watching him practice. And I was there for like 3 months, myself and a few other women I know. And one day, Master Wilkie, who was the head of the studio, came over and said to us, you really should join. You're here you're here like 3 times a week. You should try it. And he was saying to us, it's great exercise. You'll lose weight. You should really give it a try. And I was like, no, I don't think it's right for me. But eventually my friend said, come on, let's do it. Let's try. If I'll do it if you do it. And so I started. And at first it really, I really didn't like it that much. It seemed so foreign to me. All of the way, the bowing and the using, saying Miss or Mr. and so, and it seemed very military and just really foreign. But as time went on, I started to learn that I really did like the discipline of the practicing over and over again. And the dojang, the people in the dojang began to feel like family to me. It was a real family and a real encouragement. And I have to say, like Lois, the testing was the hardest piece for me. And I'll never forget my first test for the first belt in Tang Soo Do, which is orange. I think I started my chapter saying I was either going to throw up or faint. And that's the way I felt, because I was a real introvert, and the idea of having to get out and perform in front of everyone was terrifying for me. But the first time I did it, afterwards, I just found that I felt so empowered. I felt so high. I had never felt that feeling before of being so afraid and just doing it anyway. And that's for me what martial arts became about. It really was about claiming my own personal power and learning how to move forward regardless of how I was feeling emotionally, to acknowledge the fear, but then just go ahead and do it anyway. So my son tested for black belt 3 months before me, which I was thrilled about, because I think that for him, that was so huge, and so gave him so much confidence to have done something first before his mom. And he was always trying to help me and, give me advice all through the journey. But then I tested 3 months afterwards and got my black belt. So we got them very close together. And so that's basically, there's a lot more in there, but what I would say for me is that the martial arts journey was really about taking control of my mind. And my thought process, which I realized it was my thoughts that were creating my fears. And so being able to really focus my mind and just move forward and having my body follow, what my thoughts were.
Thank you for sharing your story, Bonnie. Bonnie, if you guys caught it earlier, said the D word, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Discipline, the D word. I call it the D word. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Taryn, I'm going to move to you and talk to me about your story and this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Yeah, the big thing in my story when I wrote my chapter was I really wanted to communicate my struggle with Taekwondo throughout, and even currently due to a stroke that I had when I was 30. And when I had that stroke, I was living in Nashville at the time where I grew up, and that was of course like life-changing for me in so many ways. And it was something that obviously at 30 years old, you never really plan to have a stroke, but you definitely don't at 30 years old. when you're in the shower, just getting ready for work. And so it is something that is like life before the stroke and life after the stroke for me. And so for me, one of the things I don't touch on actually in my chapter is why I even got the idea to take martial arts to enroll in Taekwondo. And that reason is because I was actually in therapy for overcoming some PTSD of mine from abuse. And my therapist, one day we were having this conversation, and I was struggling a little bit, and she just looked at me like at the very end of the session and said, "You know what? Why don't you think about taking a martial art?" And I was like, "What? How does it translate to what we were talking about?" And she just said, the martial arts are so great for building confidence again and making you feel safe inside your own body, and all these things. And I took it, but I didn't really. I thought like I'm too old for this, and I'm a woman, and like, what does this mean? Blah blah blah. And I went home that day, and I'm kind of an action taker, and like once I decide something needs to be done, like I just go do it. And so I left her office a day, and I come home and I think about it, and the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, she's probably right. And so I just like straight up Googled like Taekwondo near me, and several results came up, and I was like, how do I even pick like a good school? How do I even know what's good, what's bad? Blah blah blah. And short story is that I ended up just at the right place the first time, and with a master who is now a grandmaster, that was just amazing for me, and a great partner for me. And so, and on top of the physical challenges that I have because of my stroke, like I walked in there and I was like, dude, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Look at this hand, I was like, I can't do anything with this. And he said, yeah, you can like spear finger somebody. And he was like, that's a real move. And I was like, don't lie to me, and he was like, I'm not lying. And so, that journey of him being able to be flexible with me and adapt things for me when I needed to, but also not letting me stay there, was so important for me, because that was something that helped push me to keep developing and to keep growing. And the times that were frustrating, I talk a lot about that in my chapters, when my balance is off. So the stroke got my cerebellum, which means sometimes I can just be walking along and I just start to like lean over like I'm going to fall. And balance is essential in the martial arts when you're turning and pivoting and doing all these things. And so that has been a regular challenge that I face throughout all my time, almost 3 years now. And it's something that I have to overcome. And so for me, that is a huge part of my journey, is overcoming those physical challenges and also the emotional challenges of PTSD when you're on the mat and doing things,
I love how you talked about the way that your master adapted. And it's been one of the things I've loved so much about being in class is looking around me at the variety of people and ability and age, and sex and all of it. And a really wonderful teacher will be able to build that confidence in anybody. I don't care your ability. Tell me more about how you moved through that in your classes.
Yeah, so we, it's exactly what you said, that you're lined up on the mat and you've got people from all walks of life and all different personal stories and journeys on their own. And it's an amazing ability for our grandmaster to know every single person's story and be able to challenge them personally within their journey. And it's an incredible gift. And I am often just amazed by his ability to walk to an individual and say, hey, this is what it means to be a father. Like our kids need to see this from us. So, hey, you over here, this is something you're going to have to keep working on. At school sometimes things are tough, and that like parents have had some private conversation with him or whatever, but he keeps track of it and is able to just walk in and enter into each person's space. And so for me, it was constantly so frustrating because I wanted to be the best that I could be, and I felt like my limitations from the stroke prevented me from being the best I could be. And so I was constantly thinking to myself, like, I wouldn't be this way if I didn't have a stroke. Like, I'd be better if I didn't have a stroke. And the reality is, like, I can't change the fact that I had a stroke. And so it's really making me the best that I can be, like, as me right now. And so for him, he would constantly walk into that situation when I would get frustrated and get mad and want to throw things, you know, or whatever. He just walked into that and was like, okay, like, this is where you're at, and here's how you need to move forward, you know. So for me, that is how he entered into that space a lot.
I love it. I love the awareness. All right. So I'm going to tip the conversation toward awareness now. I'm going to stick with you, Taryn, for this next one. I'm going to ask everybody this same question, but you know, the practice of awareness is foundational for a great life and martial arts practice. I mean, really being in awareness makes a difference. And then Bonnie mentioned the D word, discipline. So I know for me is when I made a discipline out of the awareness practice, everything changed. And I suddenly had a choice, because if I was paying attention to what was going on up here, then it was up to me. I had to choose. Was I going to choose something that would point me toward joy or being stuck, you know, in whatever that doubt was, or the fear, or whatever it is? So Taryn, talk to me about how this practice has been for you personally.
Yeah, so I always say that it's the martial arts, and for me, Taekwondo is like sorcery. I don't really understand how it works in you know, in the big picture. I'm like, I know that I changed, but how? Like, how does that happen? You know, and it's so fascinating. So going back to like my therapist saying like, hey, the martial arts are great for abuse, recovering from abuse, and it's this and it's that, and it builds your confidence. And I was like, well, I'm a pretty confident person, but there's a different level of confidence that she was talking about, and that feeling safe inside your own body has been the biggest gift for me, knowing that I can take care of myself. And the thing was, it's like I've always been taking care of myself, but now it's at this whole new level of being able to do that. And that awareness of like, I'm different than everyone, but at the same time, like, I'm moving forward and this is my journey. And then 3 years later, you look up and you're like, I'm a whole different person, but how did that happen? And so it is like a sorcery. Like, I don't understand it, but for every single person that goes through the journey, they say the same thing, you know. And so for me, I think if I bring that down to a personal example, it is that idea, and I talk about this in my chapter, that pill song, the certain victory, and that is a phrase we say over and over and over again. So that choosing, like you said, to not let things be in your way, and the stroke is in my way and I don't have a choice about that, and the abuse is in my way and the PTSD is in my way, but I don't have a choice about that having happened to me. But what I do have a choice about is being able to respond to that in a way that means that I move forward with my life. And so I get to respond to that, and that is my choice at the end of the day. Things that happened to me were not, but the way I come out of that, the way I respond, the way I heal, and the way I grow is my choice. And for me, that is where that awareness hits, is understanding that better and being inside my own body better.
Oh man, yes, with an exclamation point. And you know, ladies, thank you to all of you for stepping up in the ways that you did to write your story and share the lesson. You can hear the topics are powerful. They are life-changing sorcery, however we want to call it, right? And I don't want to forget to say thank you for doing that. It's one thing to share your story with people, but then to actually put it in black and white and decide you're going to publish it, right? To hit go is another level of warrior in my book. So thank you all. Bonnie, talk to me about this awareness practice in terms of how it's affected you personally.
Yes, so I really do believe that my martial arts journey was the beginning of my real awareness of the power of our thoughts and the power of our mind, and that a lot of times the thoughts that are going through our mind, we're not really aware of them, but they're evoking a emotional response from us, or they are either getting in the way of action that we're taking, or causing us to take an action that we don't really want to take. And so it was really, for me, being in martial arts got me to really start paying attention to my thoughts, and also understanding that my fears were just thoughts in my mind. They were nothing more than a thought that I was thinking, because kind of forcing myself to move forward and do what was required of me in class and in tests especially, it got me to realize that, oh, okay, so it's not really true what I was thinking. I can actually do this thing that I'm afraid of, and nothing bad's going to happen to me. And in fact, by going ahead and moving forward with whatever it is that I'm afraid to do, it doesn't weaken me or it doesn't kill me, because our brains like to tell us that if there's fear attached to something, that it's dangerous, and that our survival is, is being challenged. But most of the times it's not true at all. It's just a pattern of thoughts and beliefs that we have because of the things that happened to us in our life before. And so by facing those fears on the mat, I was able to realize that I have a choice. I have a choice about the thoughts that I choose to think, or the thoughts that I choose to believe. And I can be afraid, and I can move forward anyway, even though I'm afraid. And when I do move forward when I'm afraid, it frees me. It frees me, and it gives me back my power. And so this is a lesson that has carried forward with me every single day in my life. I mean, it started this is what I teach to people now. I mean, I teach about mindfulness and the connection between body and mind and emotion. And so it was pivotal. It was life-changing for me to learn that.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, you guys I'm just like writing down these beautiful words: freedom, empowerment, confidence. I mean, we could go on and on, right? I mean, there's long lists of the wins. Lois, what do you want to add to this? Talk to me about your personal experience with that awareness practice.
So both of your stories resonate with me. One of the things I don't talk about in the chapter is that I have MS. Diagnosed many, many years ago, long before I started martial arts. Thank goodness, relatively mild, but I certainly experienced symptoms throughout my training. There were times I couldn't feel my feet, had no idea where the floor was. And the self-awareness, and self-awareness is a beautiful thing that not everyone has. But that self-awareness that I gained through martial arts helped me to recognize that at every step, that bar might have gotten just a little bit higher, but I could still get over it. I might have had to find a different path, had to work around it. And with the help of Master Holloway and many others, people in my personal life, I was able to get over those things that were put in my way, put in front of me. The other piece is that I think the self-awareness helps me in my daily life. So it helps me be a better martial arts instructor, certainly. It helps me to see everyone as an individual, as Taryn was talking about. But it also helped me as a CEO, interacting constantly with people, people I worked with, my staff, colleagues, just folks in the work world, seeing people as individuals. And being aware of what they might have been experiencing and their reactions to situations, and molding how I wanted to move forward. Self-awareness allowed me to be thoughtful about that.
Yes, there's another yes with the exclamation point, because I mean, everything we learn. Oh my gosh. And also Bonnie talking about getting over the fears, and Lois talking about, like, if you're aware, then you can respond to people with compassion, with empathy, with understanding. And it's not always that battle that you see people in, right? That battle comes from reacting. It comes from a lack of awareness. And this is world-changing kinds of things we're talking about, because it has to do with people and communication.
Right.
Yeah.
And that communication is just a process. It's a patient understanding and learning about and experiencing other people and moving through this world together.
Yes. So, in all of these different kinds of topics, what was coming up repeatedly was perseverance. And we decided to create that subtitle for the book with that word. And what I want to know, I'm going to start with you, Bonnie, for this one. I want to know what a win has been for you because you persevered. Can you give us an example? Why is this so important?
So I believe that a big win that came from me because I persevered was learning that if I make a commitment to myself, which I believe is a very powerful thing, and then follow through, I just keep showing up. I just keep taking one day at a time, one step at a time, one move at a time, that eventually I'll get to wherever I want to be. And so I learned that through martial arts, because as you all know, there are times when it's overwhelming. It seems like you just can't do it anymore. But the fact is if you just keep showing up and you just keep moving forward, that you eventually reach the goal. And I use that in my life all the time. The idea of making a commitment to myself and then just keep following through, showing up. And there's just so much power in that. It just feels so good when you get there, to know that you did it. You followed through with what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, it makes such a difference. You're talking about having goals in the first place, right? So I was just sitting here listening to you thinking, all right, that goal has to be in place. We have to actually truly know what we want and know where we want to go. And if we're not so sure, it's not that's fine that you're not sure. And that's an okay place to be, in that place of, oh, what do I really want? What is the bigger goal, right? And then to set it so that your perseverance is aiming for something, it's aligning with something. There's a magic in that. And you're making me think about even just writing books. Like, for the very first time when I made the decision, that's something I wanted to do, and I had never done it before, that was a huge goal. And I thought, am I really going to be able to do this? Right. And I told myself I was going to write every single day for that particular month that I was writing. I was going to write every morning for a certain amount of words, was the goal, to get to the end of that month and have this book written. Right. And so, did I wake up lots of mornings and think, oh, I got to do this instead, or I got to do that. But, just persevering and making sure that I was staying accountable to my own dream.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Was a big deal. Right. So Lois, I'm going to move to you to answer this also. What was a win that you've had because you persevered?
So there are two things I have to mention. One is raising a son who is an amazingly wonderful young man. And
great example. That's a great example.
It's just not always easy. It does get better every day. The other is becoming CEO of the association where I was for 23 years. And that for me was a stretch. I had worked in associations and nonprofits my entire life. And this opportunity came up, and it was time to spread my wings and see what I could do. It was tough. The first couple of years, basically when I was hired, I was told, change this and this and this and this and this, but keep everything exactly the way we've been doing it for 30 years. Getting through those first couple of years and helping everybody have realistic expectations, and setting goals for myself and for the organization and reaching them, bringing others on board with me to get there, was huge. And it took a tremendous amount of perseverance.
I love it.
Yeah.
Big wins. Those are big wins. I love that. What else did you want to say about that?
The other 3 years ago, I decided, okay, it's time. I'm exhausted. I need to retire. And, I can do this. It was terrifying at first, and made the decision, decided when, informed my board, we rolled it out. It's all good. And as soon as I was nearing the end of my employment there, people started coming to me and saying, you should apply for this and you should apply for this and you should do this. And I was like, no, if I wanted to work full time, I'd keep my good gig. I didn't leave, I was unhappy. But I started consulting, which was not in the plan. And building my consulting firm has been fabulous, amazing, but really a stretch, especially going through COVID, when much of what I do is in person. And in-person stuff just hasn't happened in a year, and having to pivot and change how, not just what I do, but how I do it, and helping people understand that you can do strategic planning when you're not in person. It's going to feel different, but we can accomplish it. So getting through this year, and I think getting through this year has been so tough for so many people.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I want to, we'll segue into that topic because I wanted to kind of finish the discussion today about that. But I want to hop over to Taryn to have her answer the perseverance question first. You have had multiple wins, girl. But what's your biggest one, do you think?
I'll be honest, I'm still on a high from just getting my black belt. So I'm just going to go straight surface right now and say getting that belt was amazing. And I've done a lot of things in my life and, overcome a lot. Perseverance has been the summary of my life since I was born, I think. And so for me, to have such an immense physical challenge, I'm still on a high, and sometimes I just carry my belt around with me, in my backpack still. And I just look at it, I take it out and just look at it a lot. But one of the cool things, going a little deeper, is of course that being a black belt opens doors that weren't open before in this weird way. And so I think it's super cool. People respect a 30-year-old stroke survivor woman starting Taekwondo, and they're like, oh, that's cool. You're a little weird, but that's cool. Good for you. And but then when you make it, when you make it all the way to black belt, and it's just this, it just transforms how people see you and think about you. And then they kind of realize oh, this wasn't a little hobby over here. This was a real thing, and now oh, she's a badass, in this way I hadn't thought of. And so that's super cool. And then the doors that it has opened for me to talk about women's self-defense, and the doors that it is open to say hey, I was abused too, and here's what I've done about it going forward, and this is just one part of healing, by the way. Taekwondo is not going to heal everything about you if you have abuse in your past, but it's one part of it that can really get some gains in your life. And so the way it has opened doors to merge what I'm passionate about, which is helping women, that's what my doctorate is about, helping women recover from abuse using an element of Taekwondo. And so how cool is that, right? And so for me, yeah, I think it's that open doors. Like this summer, I have some friends in Ukraine, and they've asked me to come over and teach and do a women's self-defense seminar. And they're just like, we don't know anybody else, and we could never find this here. Like, come over and teach our women. And they might have asked me if I was like an orange belt, but like that black belt is like a whole nother level, So for me, I would definitely say like it's been amazing. It's been great.
There's so much I love about what you're saying. I opened up the book in the introduction with some statistics on purpose to have people understand that this is, there are a lot of people who might start that martial art journey, but never reach the level of earning their black belt. It's a very small percentage of people. And then it's an even smaller percentage of people who go on after that. Because a lot of people look at that journey and that particular goal and say, oh, done, I'm good, I'm out, but so an even smaller percentage continue. And I think it's really important it's good to be proud of that and to understand what you are made of, that helped you get to the point of that amount of perseverance. You are all badasses, seriously, like so honored to have you here and having these discussions. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. And I really do want to go back to what Lois was talking about for a minute about the tough year that everyone has had, because we all had challenges before the year of COVID that we were coping with and struggling with. And then we were dumped with so much more that it put people to the edge of their ability to cope. A lot of anxiety and a lot of depression and a lot of all the bad things, right? So I was just hoping to wrap up with you all offering some words of support. What is something simple that has helped you that might help our listeners today who are struggling? So Lois, let's go with you first.
I would say to people, you deserve to find and cherish your joy. And whether that comes from surrounding yourself with loved ones, surrounding yourself maybe not physically in the same room, but staying in communication with them, staying connected with people. This is an area where mental toughness is one piece of, being able to get out of bed in the morning and put your feet on the floor. But it's so important to get help finding your joy. And maybe that's with family, with friends, maybe that's with a professional. We will return to some form of normal. But in the meantime, we don't have to struggle through it. There is joy.
I love it, Lois. Thank you. Connecting with that joy. Yes. And especially resonated with, you all deserve that. And that's something you can go for. Bonnie, how about you?
I agree completely with what Lois said. I'm all about connecting with joy. But I would say specifically, one of the things that has helped me personally more than anything is to get outside in nature as much as possible. I have, for this whole past year, almost every single day, I have found the time and the way, regardless of the weather, to go outside. I have 2 friends, and we have a weekly date. We've had it for a whole year now. On every Tuesday afternoon at 3, no matter what the weather is, we go to a trail, a natural place that's close by, and we walk and we talk. And that's allowed me to be outside and to have real live connection with other women, which I believe is so important.
I feel you. It's been cold here in Maryland. I would like some sunshine, but I get out anyway, which is...
Yeah, it's been cold here too, but we've gone out when it's been like 0, just bundled up in layers and layers.
Exactly. My dogs are always happy about those walks too. So it's all good. Yes. Love that. We have to remind ourselves to do it. especially after days and days of, you wake up again and you think, oh my gosh, another day of this, and when is this going to end? And all the things that go through your head again, we talked about that so much today, that mindset. But just reminding yourself, okay, tying up the shoes, walking outside, doing it. Here we go. Taryn, I'm going to close it out with you. What words of support would you have for somebody struggling? What's helped you?
Yeah, I would say give yourself grace and be patient with yourself. And, life is not normal. In some states, it's starting to feel normal, or the new normal, or whatever we're calling it. And so giving yourself the grace to have bad days, and that the next one, today was bad and tomorrow won't be. And eating habits changed over this for a lot of people. Gaining
Yes.
weight happened a lot for people. Kids getting behind in school, all the things that so many of the parents that I pastor their children at church, they're coming to me going like, this happened and this happens, like, it's going to be okay. And you need to give yourself grace to have these bad days, or to look up and say, I didn't want this to be going on, and now it is, and what do I do about it? And just being able to not panic about when you look up and go, oh my goodness, I've been doing this a year, and being able to do that. In addition to what these brilliant ladies said about, connecting with people and being outside, all of that, I would definitely say giving yourself grace for that.
Yes. What a beautiful combination of what all of you said. Thank you so much. Ladies, thank you so much for what you're doing in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So for our listeners, don't forget to tune in for our live stream book launch event on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page. March 16th, 10 a.m. We're going to have all of our authors. We're going to be talking to them about all of these kinds of different subjects that day. And Brave Healer Productions is matching paperback copy sales that day to donate books back to the Light of Truth Center here in Maryland, an organization that helps recovering women get back on their feet. So very proud to be supporting that organization here with our paperbacks. Lastly, you guys, I love to end our shows with a big juicy question. So here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? You'll be finding a few of those somethings in this new book. Time to be brave. See you next time, you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.